239 days. That's how long Caitlin Clark went without playing a single competitive basketball game. Not a scrimmage, not a preseason throwaway, a real game with real stakes, real defense, real pressure. 239 days of physical therapy, of rebuilding, of not knowing if your body is going to respond the way it used to. And then just like that, she walks onto an international court in San Juan, Puerto Rico, wearing a Team USA jersey for the very first time at the senior level, and within 3 minutes, she has 4 assists. 4 in 3 minutes. And here's the thing that nobody's actually talking about right now. Everyone's focused on the MVP trophy. Everyone's focused on the drama around the coaching staff. But the number that tells you everything you need to know about where Caitlin Clark actually is right now, the number that should genuinely blow your mind, is 52.9%. That's her field goal percentage for the entire tournament. After 8 months away, after a groin injury that ended her season early, after barely playing 13 games in her sophomore WNBA year. 52.9% from the field and 40% from 3. I need you to understand why that's not normal. Shooting mechanics are built on muscle memory. And muscle memory doesn't care how talented you are, it cares about repetition. It cares about your legs being under you, your hips being right, your release point being exactly where it's supposed to be. And when you've been out for 8 months with a lower body injury, the foundation of every shooting motion you've ever built, that memory fades. Not completely, but enough. Enough to throw off your timing by a fraction of a second. Enough to make the ball come off your fingertips just slightly wrong. Enough that in her injury-shortened 2025 season, Clark was shooting 27.9% from 3. There were multiple games in a row where she couldn't hit a single one, something that hadn't happened since she was a sophomore at Iowa back in 2022. So when she walks into Puerto Rico after 8 months off and starts drilling threes off the bounce off the catch pull-up logo range, that's not just confidence, that's a body that's fully back. And that matters more than any MVP award because it tells you exactly what's coming next. But here's where this story gets really interesting. Because the numbers are incredible, sure. The comeback narrative is compelling, absolutely. But the real question, the one that's going to matter all the way through the 2026 WNBA season, is something a lot of people are dancing around without actually saying it. Why did it take until Game 4 for Caitlin Clark to start? Let me set the scene for you. Game 1 against Senegal. Clark comes off the bench. She's been out for 239 days. She steps on the floor with 5 minutes and 27 seconds left in the first quarter. Her very first offensive possession, she runs a pick and roll with Monique Billings, reads the defense before it can react, and delivers a perfect pocket pass for an easy layup. 3 minutes later, she has 4 assists and hasn't even thought about scoring yet. She finishes with 17 points and 12 assists in 20 minutes. 17 and 12 in 20 minutes. Off the bench, in her first senior national team appearance ever. And to put that in context for you, the number of assists she had that night was the second most in the history of FIBA Women's World Cup qualifying games. A record that had stood for years. Gone on her debut night, while she was a reserve. And then she goes back to the bench for Game 2. Now look, I want to be fair here because a lot of the content you've seen about this situation has gone straight to the most dramatic possible interpretation and left out some crucial facts. Kara Lawson was not fired. She was not secretly removed because she was sabotaging Caitlin Clark. She is the head coach of Duke women's basketball, and the NCAA tournament was starting. This was a known, planned situation from before the tournament even began. Lawson gave her Duke players the week off to rest while she was coaching Team USA in Puerto Rico, and then she went back to coach them in March Madness, where, by the way, Duke went on to have a really strong run as a 3 seed. So, the conspiracy version of this story, the one getting millions of views right now, built on a false premise. But here's what's actually true, and this is where it gets genuinely complicated. Lawson said it herself before the tournament. She said the starting lineup would change the rotations, would change that she was in fact-finding mode. She wanted to experiment with combinations, build chemistry, figure out what worked for this group. And honestly, as a coaching philosophy going into a new tournament with players who haven't played together, that's completely reasonable. Except, you had a player go out there in Game 1 and put up the second most assists in qualifying tournament history, off the bench, coming back from 8 months away, with a shooting percentage that would make healthy players jealous. And the fact-finding continued for 3 more games. What exactly were you still trying to find out? Because here's the thing about Caitlin Clark that the analytics people understand and the casual fan sometimes misses. Her value isn't just in her scoring. It's not just the 3-pointers from the logo or the no-look passes or the step-back pull-up from 30 feet. Her real value is structural. When Clark is on the floor, defenses have to make a decision they don't want to make. Do you follow her everywhere and risk leaving someone else open? Do you send a double team and let her find the open player before the rotation arrives? Or do you try to guard her straight up and accept that she might just pull up from 30 feet and make it? There's no good answer. Every option costs you something. And that's why Puerto Rico ran a box and won against her. A box. And won. You know what a box and one means? It means the other team looked at their entire defensive system, evaluated all their options, and decided that the single most important thing they could do was dedicate one player to following Caitlin Clark everywhere she went for the entire game. It is the basketball equivalent of a scouting report that says this one person is the problem, and we need to build a wall specifically for her. Puerto Rico was ranked 13th in the world. They ran an entirely unconventional defensive scheme just to stop one player on the other team. That's not disrespect. That's the highest form of respect there is in basketball. And it worked, not because Clark couldn't handle it, but because the offensive system around her didn't have a ready answer for it. When you're playing in a half-court system with veterans controlling the tempo and the ball spending 20 seconds in motion before a shot goes up, there's no mechanism to punish the defense for overcommitting to one player. The spacing doesn't stretch properly. The decision-making doesn't happen fast enough. And Clark, whose entire game is built on pace, on quick reads, on seeing 2 seconds ahead of the defense, gets neutralized not by talent, but by circumstance. The team was winning. Don't get that wrong. But the offense looked labored. It looked slow. It looked exactly like what it was a system being asked to function without the player it needed most in the right role. And then Nate Tibbetts took over for games 4 and 5. Tibbetts, assistant coach for Team USA and head coach of the Phoenix Mercury, made one change. He started Caitlin Clark. And then he put her on the floor alongside Kelsey Plum and Paige Bueckers. 3 guards, all of them capable of handling the ball, reading the defense, making decisions at speed. Game 4 against New Zealand. Team USA wins by 55 points. Clark plays 23 minutes, gets 14 points and 6 assists with 0 turnovers. The offense looks completely different, faster, cleaner, more fluid. Teammates are getting open looks early in the shot clock instead of late. Defenders are scrambling instead of setting up. But here's the thing that people keep getting wrong about that 55-point win. They say, oh, it was New Zealand, that doesn't prove anything. And fair enough, let's not pretend that was the toughest opponent. So look at the full tournament numbers. Clark led Team USA in assists across all 5 games. She led the entire tournament in assists, not just her team, every player from every country. She averaged 11.6 points and 6.4 assists per game, shooting 52.9% from the field and 40% from 3. She led Team USA in plus-minus and efficiency. She led the entire tournament field in plus-minus and efficiency. That data runs across all 5 games, including the ones where she came off the bench against Puerto Rico, including the ones where the system wasn't built around her. Every game, every opponent, the whole field. Game 5 against Spain, the toughest test of the tournament, ranked among the top teams in the world. Clark comes off the bench, plays 22 minutes, gets 7.7 assists, and the team's only block. Team USA wins 84-70. At the end of the tournament, FIBA named her the most valuable player of the entire competition, the youngest MVP in qualifying tournament history, her second international MVP after winning the same honor at the Under-19 World Cup back in 2021. And she spent the first 3 games coming off the bench. Now, I've been holding back on the thing I actually want to talk about, because everything I just told you, that's backstory. That's context. The real story, the one that matters for what happens next, is about Indiana. Stephanie White was an assistant coach on the Team USA staff in Puerto Rico. She was standing on that sideline for all 5 games. She watched Game 1, Clark's 17-12 off the bench. She was there for Puerto Rico and the box and won. She was there for Games 4 and 5 when Tibbetts started Clark and the offense transformed. She had a front row seat to a live 5-game experiment that tested 2 different coaching philosophies with the same player and the same team. And then she got on a plane back to Indianapolis, where she is the head coach of the Indiana Fever, where Caitlin Clark is about to start her 3rd WNBA season. I'm not going to call Stephanie White a villain. That's not what this is. But I want to ask a really specific basketball question, because it's the question that's going to determine whether the 2026 Fever are a good team or a great one. When an opponent runs a box and 1 against Clark, and they will because Puerto Rico showed it's possible, and WNBA coaches absolutely watch that tape, what does Indiana's offense do? That's not a rhetorical question. That's a game plan question. And it has a concrete answer that requires a specific kind of preparation. Because here's what Puerto Rico revealed. The box and 1 worked in the moment. Not because Clark couldn't beat it individually, she can and she will, but because there was no preset system to punish the defense for committing so hard to her. When one player abandons their defensive assignment and commits entirely to following one person, that means someone else is open. But finding that open player and getting them a good shot in rhythm requires spacing, requires movement, requires reads that happen before the defense can rotate. That's not something you improvise in the moment. That's something you build in practice. And building it requires accepting a fundamental premise that Clark is not just one piece of a balanced system. She is the center of gravity that makes the whole system move. I know that's not the most comfortable thing for a coach to accept, because it means your offense is built around one player's decision-making. It means your scheme is dependent on her staying healthy, staying effective, staying aggressive. It's a lot of eggs in one basket. But look at what happened in Game 4 when Tibbetts just committed to it. Look at what happened when the system said, yes, she's the primary engine, build everything around her reads and her pace. 55 points. The offense didn't just work better, it looked fun. It had personality, it had flow. And that's the thing about Clark that's genuinely rare. It's not just that she makes herself better in the right system. She makes everyone around her better. Her court vision is generational, not because she can make the pass. Lots of players can make the pass, but because she sees the situation developing 2 or 3 seconds before it happens. She's throwing the ball to where the player is going to be, not where they are. And when you build an offense around that, every other player's job gets easier. Kelsey Plum doesn't have to create her own shot as often because the defense is already tilted toward Clark. Paige Buchers gets clean catch and shoot looks because the defense collapsed on Clark in the paint. The whole floor breathes differently. So, the question going into the 2026 WNBA season isn't, is Caitlin Clark good enough? That's been answered. 239 days off, and she comes back and leads every player from every country in efficiency and plus-minus. The question is answered. The question is whether the people building the system around her are going to take what Puerto Rico showed and actually apply it. Or whether we're going to spend the first month of the season watching Clark try to fit into something that doesn't fit her while the coaching staff figures out what the data already said clearly in Game 1. Now here's the thing I want to say before we wrap up, and this is the part I think matters beyond sports. Clark's story in Puerto Rico is a story a lot of us know from our own lives. You step into a new situation, new job, new team, new environment, and the system isn't built for the way you work. The structures were designed before you arrived. The people running things have a philosophy they believe in, and that philosophy doesn't center what you do best. And you have two choices. You can fight the system, you can complain publicly, push back, make noise demand to be used differently, or you can do what Clark did. Show up. Compete at the highest level possible within whatever constraints exist. Let the work be so undeniable that the numbers make the argument for you. 12 assists in 20 minutes on your senior debut after 239 days away. 0 turnovers in your starting debut. 52.9% shooting when your mechanics hadn't been tested in almost a year. Tournament MVP. In a field of the best women's basketball players in the world. She didn't say a single word about her role. Not one public complaint, not one cryptic social media post. She walked into a situation that wasn't optimized for her, and she was so relentlessly good that by the end of the tournament, the conversation had already shifted from what role Clark should play to how every WNBA coach should be thinking about using her going forward. That's not a sports lesson. That's a blueprint for how you operate when the environment isn't ready for you yet. The results don't need a press conference. 239 days, and when she came back, she needed 20 minutes. So here's what I want to know from you. Because I've given you the full picture, not the viral drama version, not the conspiracy theory version, but the actual data and the actual stakes. Now I want your take. Drop a basketball emoji in the comments right now if Clark's comeback from Puerto Rico hit different for you. If watching someone come back from 8 months away and immediately be the best player in an international tournament means something beyond just basketball. Let me know you felt that. And then tell me this. With everything you just watched from Puerto Rico, with the live experiment of what Clark looks like in the wrong system versus the right one, do you think Stephanie White is going to build Indiana's offense around Clark this season? Or are we going to have the same conversation again in July? There's no right answer. I genuinely want to hear both sides. Drop your honest take below. I read every single comment and I don't delete disagreement. That's what makes this community worth building. And if you think the truth about what's actually happening in women's basketball is worth more than the clickbait version, leave a comment. Share, this makes some noise. Every single comment gets this story in front of more people who deserve to hear the full picture. Now, you know what happened in Puerto Rico? But there's a player who was on that sideline the whole time, someone whose decisions in the next few months are going to shape everything that happens to Clark in 2026 and beyond. And her story is way more complicated than anything you've heard so far. That video is already on your screen. You are not going to want to miss it. The results don't need a press conference. 239 days, and when she came back, she needed 20 minutes. So here's what I want to know from you. Because I've given you the full picture, not the viral drama version, not the conspiracy theory version, but the actual data and the actual stakes. Now I want your take. Drop a basketball emoji in the comments right now if Clark's comeback from Puerto Rico hit different for you. If watching someone come back from 8 months away and immediately be the best player in an international tournament means something beyond just basketball. Let me know you felt that. And then tell me this. With everything you just watched from Puerto Rico, with the live experiment of what Clark looks like in the wrong system versus the right one, do you think Stephanie White is going to build Indiana's offense around Clark this season? Or are we going to have the same conversation again in July? There's no right answer. I genuinely want to hear both sides. Drop your honest take below. I read every single comment and I don't delete disagreement. That's what makes this community worth building. And if you think the truth about what's actually happening in women's basketball is worth more than the clickbait version, leave a comment, share. This makes some noise. Every single comment gets this story in front of more people who deserve to hear the full picture. Now, you know what happened in Puerto Rico, but there's a player who was on that sideline the whole time, someone whose decisions in the next few months are going to shape everything that happens to Clark in 2026 and beyond. And her story is way more complicated than anything you've heard so far. That video is already on your screen. You are not going to want to miss it.